Alright guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So I've got the Note 7 here, and I wanted to do some benchmarks on the Note 7. And the Note 7, I'll put it up against the Axon 7 and the Moto Z. Now the Note 7 is like a mixed bag when it comes to benchmarks. I can never get a pretty steady score of the same. So I did a screen recording of the benchmarks, and the Axon 7 and the Moto Z scored nearly identical with screen recording and with screen recording not being on. What I found with the Note 7 is when doing screen recordings, it scored as low as 122,000. And when I didn't do a screen recording, it scored, the highest was 140,000. And that's kind of strange. I did it multiple times, and every time I would record the screen with the Note 7, it would drop the score. But with the Axon 7 and the Moto Z, it didn't drop the score. It stayed the same. So you're going to see in this video right here of what happened. So first, I'll let you look at the benchmarks from Antutu on the phones, and then we'll move on to the next. Check it out. Alright, as you can see there, the Note 7 performed at a lower level for some reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's a matter of RAM management. But it just, no matter what test I ran, it still scored lower than the Axon 7 and the Moto Z by maybe 5,000 to 20,000 on all the tests for Antutu. So let's get into next GEEKBENCH 3. Now this one kind of surprised me because these phones again pretty much have the same internals, and I just think it's a matter of the way Samsung's optimization is for their phones, and it's just a matter of RAM management. And just take a look at these scores here, and you can see for yourself. Remember, all have Quad HD displays, all have 4 gigs of RAM, and all have the Snapdragon 820. So let's take a look. Did I really just pay $920 for this? All right, guys, so you can see clearly that the Note 7 does not perform as well. And the reason I have a problem with this, and this is why price comes into play, because I can take the Axon 7 for $399 at full cost. I've recommended the Axon 7 over nearly every phone that's out right now, even the OnePlus 3. That video is coming, by the way. People wanted to see the OnePlus 3 versus the Axon. Stay tuned. If I don't have it up already, I'm working on it. So I recommend the Axon 7 for the average consumer or just somebody who wants a killer flagship over all of the phones that are on the table right now, because you're just getting a much more full package. So what? It's not waterproof. So what? You don't have the S Pen functionality. But listen, the average consumer will definitely take the price tag and the specs of the Axon 7 over the Note 7. I'm telling you, the benchmarks don't lie. I ran these tests multiple times. I had to cut the video down, and I just grabbed the screen on the last one because it just kept coming out the same. And the devices were getting hot, so I put my trusty fan on there to make sure they stayed cool. And they cooled off, and they performed all the same. But here's the thing. The Note 7 scores differently when it's running a screen recording application. But the other phones, they run exactly the same. The scores are identical. There's absolutely nothing going on with the scoring for the other devices, even when it's recording a screen. So something's wrong here with Samsung's RAM management. Do they have it locked down, or what is going on with it? It does not perform as well. And it's not just with the screen recording. Overall functionality, there is some sluggishness to it at times, and it should not be that way. When I first did my unboxing and hands-on video, it was booting up, so I let it settle. Even then, some people in the videos pointed out, man, it still looks a little sluggish. So I let it settle. Get everything loaded up the way you want it, get it set up. It just doesn't perform, and it's the strange part is because it has the same internals of this phone as far as processing power. It's got a Quad HD display, they all do. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, they all do. It's got the Adreno 530, they all do. So why is it Samsung's device does not perform as well? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I ran these tests, and I'm not really a benchmark person. But when someone says the Note 7, it looks kind of sluggish, I said, well, let me test it for myself. It's here, so I might as well just test it. And in doing so, I can tell you that it does not perform the same as the Moto Z and the Axon 7. Now, I have a camera battle coming with the Moto Z and the Note 7. The Axon 7 is good, but the cameras are really not as good. I've said that on record, but you're still getting a really good camera. I just don't think it can compete with the Note 7 or the Axon, or the Note 7 or the Moto Z. So I may throw them all in there again. Who knows? I don't know. But that's probably going to be the next video to see from me about the Note 7. Now, the Note 7 hopefully should take that battle. But I don't know. So as far as screen technology, they all have AMOLED displays, but the Note 7 has a Super AMOLED display. But in the test, it renders at 1080p. So that's a battle playing field. It should be. I mean, anything you think, here's what I want you to do. I didn't make this video to point out that the Note 7 was bad. I'm more concerned when it comes to pricing. Like, that phone is almost $1,000 and it still performs mediocre. No, I ain't gonna say mediocre. It just doesn't perform as well as the other devices where I have the same internals. Why is that? Somebody in the comments, please leave your feedback and tell me what you think it is. Don't leave bashing comments like Samsung's trash and all that. Put a legitimate comment as to why you feel like the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 does not perform as well as the Moto Z or the Axon 7. The performance on both of those phones were consistent. The Note 7, it was a mixed bag. It was going up and down, up and down. And you saw in the video here for the GEEKBENCH 3, and you saw the Antutu. I've only posted those two right there because it doesn't make any sense to keep posting different benchmarks and the Note 7 scoring lower for some reason. So, is it a matter of RAM management? I think so. I don't know. The RAM just scored really low. Well, you saw in the video, it scored really low. But my concern is that it did, sometimes when I wasn't doing a screen recording, it scored really high, like 140,000 peak. And I made sure the device is cooled down because somebody told me, Jay, you got to cool the devices down. I made sure they cooled down, and I put my fan at high blast right on top of the device by itself so it can stay cool, and it stayed cool to the touch. It never got really hot, nothing. So all I can say is that what is going on with Samsung's RAM management? What is happening with those phones? And my concern is the price. The phone is priced at almost $1,000 for me out the door with taxes. That's $920. That's what it came to. I think it was like $920 and 60 something cents, or I forgot what it was exactly, but basically 920 bucks, almost $1,000, 80 bucks away from $1,000. I know I got to round down. It's cool, but it's still over 900 bucks, and these other phones are 400 and 600, and they perform better. And I'm not just talking about in benchmarks. I'm talking about period. Now, one question I want to ask, could it be TouchWiz? Do you think TouchWiz, this is the newer TouchWiz, do you think TouchWiz is the reason that the Note 7 is performing at this level? What do you think? Anything you could think of, put that question in the comments, or answer a question. Like, give your feedback on what you think it is, because for that $900 price tag, man, I've never had a problem with Samsung. But I was just like, you know what, man, I just don't know. There's too many good devices out there with the same internals. The OnePlus 3 is a great example. And if you're wondering why the OnePlus 3 isn't here, well, it wouldn't balance the equation. These all have the same internals, and that has a completely, it's got 6 gigs of RAM, but it has a 1080p display. So, and I've already posted benchmarks on that. I posted it all everywhere. It scored the same as the Moto Z. It scored 140,000 to like 144,000 or something like that. So pretty much balanced with these other two phones. However, I want to know what you guys think about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. Why do you think the Note 7 fails at some benchmarks? Or, even in day-to-day performance, I've noticed that it's not as smooth as the other two devices. And before you say it's just TouchWiz, remember the Axon 7 has an overlay as well, that Me Favor UI on there. The Moto Z is the only one that's pretty much stock. And, it's showing a little bit, if that's the case, that it just has the little edge over it, not by much, but it does have it if that's the case. So is it TouchWiz? Is it Samsung RAM management? How do you feel about the price of the Note 7? How do you feel about it compared to the current market of phones that are considered flagships? I now can tell you that I consider the OnePlus 3 to be a flagship. I didn't at first. Could it be a flagship killer compared to the Note 7? It could, for what it's bringing, performance and everything. But the Axon 7, it's a flagship. The Moto Z, it's a flagship. The Moto Z Force, those are flagships. So, because, they have the same internals that the Note 7 has. But they're a little bit more smooth in day-to-day use. The battery life is good on them. So, I want you to give me your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about the video. Don't leave a silly comment just bashing Samsung, because that's not what this is about. I'm really curious how your benchmarks are on your Note 7. And if you have the devices I have here, OnePlus 3 or Axon 7 or Moto Z Force, benchmark those yourself and post your numbers in the comments. I want to see some real legitimate feedback, because the Note 7 it was a guy on Twitter, Live Breathes Tech. Shout out to you, my brother, because he is having trouble with his Note 7 already. So I hope he watches this video and gives his feedback on it, because I was talking to him on Twitter. He hit me up, and I was like, wow, you just need to exchange it or something, man. It's already giving you problems. So only thing I can tell you is I want to hear from you. I want to hear your feedback. Why do you think the Note 7 is performing this way? If you have one, if your numbers are higher than 40,000, because that's the highest I was able to get, and the GEEKBENCH 3, those are the numbers that I got. So those numbers do say a lot about the price tag. That I now officially have a problem with the price tag, because if you're going to put down those type of numbers and your day-to-day performance isn't anything stellar compared to the other devices, what do I say is so great about it at this point? The S Pen, the waterproof, the iris scanner, the SD card. What do I say to justify that $900 price tag? Let's talk about it in the comments. It's your man Jay Will. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.